Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this edition of Unpopular Review. While you're at it, why don't you give us a follow on these beautiful social media platforms known as Facebook and Twitter at Unpopular Review. But there's another one. Give us a follow on Instagram. We got funny pictures, we got updates, and we have things where we tell you everything that's going on. So why don't you give us a follow on Instagram at unpopular.review. And now, back to the show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am M, as always, during our review of the Bond series. My real name, well, that's not important. The MI6 leader does not give that. But as always, I'm aided tonight and in every show by my number one, Miss Moneypenny. Tonight, she's going by the Superior Evil. She calls herself that and then asks why she calls herself the Superior Evil. I don't know either. Would you like to tell the audience? Apparently, it's Jesus's fault. Okay. Here we have Mr. Bond himself tonight. But he calls himself the executive champion.
Actually, the sad thing is, God, I hate to do this. I actually lost my championship, so I can't call myself the executive champion anymore.
He's lost his 00 status, ladies and gentlemen, on tonight's show of all shows.
Oh no, I always have a license to kill, but I'm no longer the executive champion. I'm the executive consultant, but hey, I'm the man, and I'm happy to be here tonight. First part of this doubleheader.
And speaking of man, we have the quartermaster himself. Man talk tonight. How you doing, sir? I happen to know that Goldfinger is a favorite of our Q, the leader of the Q branch. How do you like this movie?
I'm really enjoying it so far.
Now you're saying that and you're using that in the present tense. You mean to say I really enjoyed this movie, correct?
Precisely.
Oh,
so far.
I'm glad everybody's doing well. Miss Moneypenny, 007, and Q. We're going to jump in the synopsis. Excuse me. We're going to jump in the synopsis, speaking of enunciation. And then we're going to go into our first segment, which is best of, worst of. But here's a synopsis for Goldfinger. In 007's third cinematic outing, we see him face off against Orc Goldfinger, a man whose plan could quite literally destroy the Western world for the next half century. Will Mr. Bond be able to withstand Goldfinger, an odd job, and his own habits in order to save the world's largest bank? We're going to jump in, as I said earlier, to our first segment, the best of, worst of, starting with the best of. Who would like to take it? Moneypenny, Q, 007.
I'll go. So I have one or two best of. The first scene is going to be one of the earlier scenes because Austin Powers also did it in the movie, the last movie we reviewed, the eye reflection scene, and it's just as ridiculous as it was in Austin Powers. It's clear as day. I love how he uses the woman as the shield against the tiger.
Agreed. Go ahead.
Because Bond gives 0 Fs. When it comes to fighting, you can get it too, and she did. So that's one of my favorite scenes.
I literally laughed out loud because he noticed he stops kissing her, for those who haven't seen the movie, because he notices, like, I assume her passion wasn't into it, her heart wasn't into it, and he looks at her like, "What's up, babe?" And by the way, her name is Bonita in the movie. Okay.
Okay.
And he sees it, as Chrissy says, her eyes are like mirrors. I've never seen clearer eyes, and he sees this 4K image of the dude sneaking up with the blade behind them, and he literally, with the bludgeon, and he literally grabs her, and she gets bonked on the back of the head. How she's alive, I don't know, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, but she made it miraculously. So that was one of my favorite scenes. And another one of my favorite scenes is this is also my favorite scene because it's from Austin Powers, or they redid it in Austin Powers. The judo chop scene.
Yeah.
when he hit him with one of these.
Mm-hmm.
That was another one of my favorite scenes because Sean Connery was out for the count after that. It was done.
That's a good catch because I didn't associate that with them. I just took it as Odd Job. But now that you say that, just like with the other catch of the car chase on the highway,
yes,
that's a good catch. That's where that comes from because they scream judo in this movie like 7,000 times, and people are getting chopped left and right in this movie.
Yes, they were. And also, one last thing, another thing that Austin Powers did. Well, they kind of switched it up, but the henchman, you know, the muscly guy with the hat.
Odd Job.
He you know, throws his hat and it's like chopping through everything, slicing everything, knocking everything out. And if you all remember from Austin Powers, the guy had the shoe. It's like a shoe, seriously. Mm-hmm. That was another great one. So yeah, that's the end of my best scenes.
Chrissy, can we take it that you've really enjoyed these Austin Powers movies?
I really did enjoy these Austin Powers movies.
And ladies and gentlemen, you too can enjoy them if you go back and watch our previous shows.
Very true.
QOO, who would like to go next?
I'll go next. Okay. I really enjoyed the scene where Odd Job takes the car, takes it to the junkyard, crushes the car, and then bounces with another car. Mm-hmm. That is an incredible switch up job. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know, you switch your car up. That's the most gangster shit I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Like, you go to the junkyard, you crush it, and then you take it out with you to make sure nobody gets the car. Like, that was cool. That was cool. Clearly, due to the name, one of my favorite scenes was the beginning of this movie, which was amazing. Which is something that you would never be able to get away with, I would say, in the last 20 years. I forgot her name, but he introduces the girl to the guy.
Dink.
He's like, say hi to this girl. Okay, goodbye. Say goodbye. This girl. And she's looking at him like, why? She's like, man talk.
I thought you were talking about the actual opening with the gold.
And then he slaps her on the ass and she walks away. That was classic.
I knew that scene was going to make an appearance.
That was so male. That was so, oh man, that's something that would be called toxic masculinity today. But yeah, that was just amazing.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, but you know,
this is why we call you 007.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get away with that. But yeah, that's something you would definitely not see on TV today or in a movie or anything like that, which is like, wow. that brought me into
that people can't get away with today. Back in the day, this man, I was in his Aston Martin of the time, and he rolled the window up on a man in need. Like, he did it like that, like it was nothing. So I know he gets away with the other stuff too. So I've seen it.
Man, yo, this is the go-to, man. This is like Willie with the hairline. Like, yo, that was a memorable moment.
It because it was hilarious, and we both had a good laugh. Not at the man's expense, but just at the audacity that somebody would do it without faltering or missing a beat. I had never seen such smooth behavior before. It was exhilarating.
Yeah, Chris is just looking around like, no.
Well, you know, honestly, because I'm you know, this is full disclosure. I didn't get the chance to see this movie in time. I didn't have a chance, right? But I've seen this movie. I can't count how many times I've seen this movie, so I can still do it by memory. And I remember what scene you're talking about, but I didn't catch it at first because every time I watch the scene, I mean, I see the comedy behind it, but it's like M. Bison Tuesday to me. Like, this is every day to me. So I didn't catch it. And, you know, since you and James are explaining it more, I'm now appreciating it more. But realistically speaking, I do that all the time. I do that every day at work.
He is not lying. He is not lying.
I am not lying.
Man. I've seen it. He told somebody, don't look me in the eyes. And they quickly averted their eyesight.
A mess.
No, that's a true story. And I watched it because I wanted to see if they would do it. And he told me, because I can read minds. You don't know this when I go like this. And he said, James, watch this. And he calls me Charles, though. But he says, watch this. And he says, immediately, they started to open up their mouth to ask a question. Hey, Chris, and he said, don't look me in the eyes. and they quickly went down, and then they proceeded to ask the question, and then they backed out. They never turned their back on him. They backed out. Like, we're supposed to be coming to America, and he and I, we had a great laugh after that because we couldn't believe that they actually acquiesced like that. But it was a power move. You had to respect it.
Best of scenes, guys.
That was the best of scenes, Chrissy. What do you not understand?
Best of scenes.
I mean, we're discussing my best of scenes. Don't be hating. That's what we're doing. That's what we're discussing. Man talk.
As usual.
Dude, did you have any other
I got you.
on her way?
Huh?
Did you have any other besides Dink being sent on her way?
Boss lady wants us to get back on track.
Yeah. Miss Moneypenny is telling you from the office we need to get back on track.
I mean, honestly, here's the thing. This being the second Bond movie, I'm glad. Number one, I'm glad that I'm seeing it. But like, Moneypenny clearly is a important character in just Bond's life. Mm-hmm. I wonder if later on he marries her.
I don't think so. He's not the married.
Because she's like so thirsty that it feels like she's like the girl that he's gonna end up with. I won't
spoil anything, but I say you give a little and you get a little.
Okay.
Intriguing.
Okay.
I don't mean that in a sexual way. I just mean you give a little and you get a little as far as his query as to whether or not what happens or are they close or whatever like that. So yes and no to a certain degree to your question.
I mean, because the way he's charming with her is different in the way that he's charming with her.
He does have genuine affection towards her. He doesn't treat her the same as the other women.
Exactly.
But that's his coworker, though. It's not like she's like a job or like a you
no, but she's sitting there throwing hints like, oh, listen, the kind of gold that I like is the one that goes in the third finger. He's like, damn, okay. You know what I mean? That's like when my girl came at me with el anillo pa' cuando. You know what I'm saying? So, that's it feels like that relationship there is deep. You know what I'm saying? And like none of the other girls.
Never know, Chris, we never know how long he's been working with MI6, right? At this point.
That's another one.
Mm-hmm. Chris said no. He whispered it. You can't hear him. He was drinking, but I heard him.
And now the other thing that I also liked was when there was there were mentions of 008. Mm-hmm. I've always forgotten that that's a thing. Like there's more. Do you know what I mean? Like 007 just seems like has always felt as a singular thing, like not as part of a like part of a group or part of a company, or if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I when they mentioned 008 a couple of times, I was just like, okay, yeah. And why are you nodding?
Well, I disagree with your assessment because they kind of mentioned it in Dr. No, but I mean it's perfectly fine. What's going on?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like they like this is the first time that I'm hearing of it because I am being introduced to Sean Connery 007. I'm being introduced to the first Bond. Okay. The only Bond like from before, like what I know is like the earliest part is probably the video game and then some. But I never really like knew the story or anything like that, which is why I'm wondering like if there ever was a situation with an 08 or 09.
It's ironic because the video game I'm guessing you're talking about is GoldenEye.
Mm-hmm.
And GoldenEye in the movie, the whole point of the movie is another agent.
Hold on, where is that Super Nintendo? Did he take it? I'm sorry.
This is in another show right now. In GoldenEye, it's about another agent, a former agent who's a different 00. He's a different number. But it's funny that you say that because, as you say, you're playing a video game, but not coming in at having watched the movie as well. Chris, you want to jump in here with your best of, worst of? Or your best of, rather, for this portion?
I mean, I'll go with mine. I mean, I have two specific ones I want to mention. One, of course, is also the opening scene. I liked where Goldfinger was taken to school at the card table by James Bond as he was using the woman to, give him the wrong information, so to speak. And then James told him, hey, you're going to lose. This is what I need you to do. I need you to lose because you're taking this man to school, and that's not right. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the look on Art Goldfinger's face when he was losing and him breaking the pencil, stuff like that. To James say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." That was my favorite scene. Another one of my favorite scenes was actually once again him trying to take him to school. This time at the golf course. He he presented to him as a different person. But toward the end, I mean, after he did all that, and Goldfinger's like, "Look, how many too many people have your voice? All right, I know it's you. I'm not an idiot. Okay, I gave you a chance one time. I thought you would understand when I had your woman or my woman painted in gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
You all see they get the hint. So odd job. Honestly, throw this shoe. Oh, sorry, hat. And break this statue that's already been sawed off of the neck, but you can see clearly. But hey, I want you to do this, right? So he can understand this is what I'm talking about. Because this guy is not getting it. What's going on, Rick?
Hey, Ricky.
So those are actually my two favorite scenes. Simple and short. James, on you.
Let me piggyback to what Chris just said. And everybody seems to be mentioning Odd Job. He's known as a henchman, obviously, but so far from the ones that we've seen of the classical, or what I know of the classical, he is very capable. Even the fight at the end, I really, really enjoyed that. Vic, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You remember that fight scene at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very good. And whereas I thought he was going to do this, he did something first. And that because I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen the movie. Not you, but for those who haven't seen the movie, I don't want to spoil it. But anyway, he's very, very capable. But I love that sequence on the golf course, right? And it's leading into what I'm going to say is one of the top best stuff. And we've been teasing it for I don't know how many weeks. And it's the audio tease where we have James Bond on the famous laser table, right? That diamond cutter table or whatever, that he said he made out of gold. When they go back and forth, and even the game that Bond plays where he switches, he knows that Odd Job has switched the balls, right? That there's no way he can find it because he's stepping on the original ball. So he says, I'm going to cheat too. And he switches the balls out. And he says, well, let's see if Goldfinger pays as much attention as, Odd Job does. And he doesn't. And that's how he ends up winning that match, right? Well, cut to when he's on the laser table, he really has no way to get out. And what I really, really enjoy about these movies is he doesn't have the gadgets, to like press on his watch and he can open up the little hand manacle latch or something like that. He really has to use his wits. And that back and forth, the conversation that he has with Goldfinger and him bluffing him saying, you can't take the risk of me not having told whatever information I know about this operation to my agents, my agency. You can't take that risk. And Goldfinger thinks about it, and that's how he gets out of the situation. But really, he was going to die. And I love, as I've always said, I like smart people. I like smart dialogue and films and everything like that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really, really enjoying the Sean Connery films, because as we get more into the pulpy, 70s and 80s, even though I grew up seeing those on TV, not live, obviously, but those are the ones that they always showed, the Roger Moores. Those are much more campy and over the top, and you have the submarine cars and everything like that. And it's really the gadgets that get him out of it. Whereas Sean Connery, even when he's talking to Q, that's another one of my scenes, he doesn't really like Q, and Q doesn't like him because they don't respect how one another operates, right? He doesn't respect the work that went into creating these things for the agents, because he always destroys them. He never brings them back. And Sean Connery, even he himself said it in an interview, and his Bond, he really likes to do things by his wit. And we see that coming up when he's given the mission about Goldfinger at the Manor House, and he knows about the brandy or whatever it is and the backstory and all that. We see it in his conversations with Goldfinger. We see it when he's on the farm, and even Goldfinger says, you're abnormally well-informed. You're unusually well-informed. And I just love that. I love a smart character that you can actually root for, and he deserves to be there. But my other one, other than the laser table, it has to be that cold open, and for the same reason. Now, obviously, it's goofy, with the glass eyes, that you can see clear reflections. But I love the fact that he uses the gear to look like he's just a seagull in the water and it's a snorkel. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, but I imagine a lot of spy work is very, very low key. And that's something so low key that nobody's going to be looking for the seagull at night in the water by this, cabana or cantina. or whatever like that. I love that. And the mission is he just has to destroy this heroin, this drug stash, not this, as we see later in the movie, somebody who's trying to disrupt the world economy or the Western world's economy, but something very, very simple that still has ramifications because drug money is being funneled in to finance revolutions or what have you that could destabilize Western interests. And that, for me, pretty much is spy work in the real world. So I love that. I just love that aesthetic. And the last one is Chris mentioned it, when he goes up to the woman at Joe Masterson and he says, "May I see?" Right? And she leans back and he's looking through the thing, and then she wants to see as he's manipulating the card game. And he's just taking her in. He's absolutely enjoying himself. And this Bond, deservedly so, because he's very smooth with it. You got to give him credit for that. He loves life. He loves his life. And he knows that he is charming, right? And he plays to that, and he just goes with it full throttle. And it's just a joy to see on screen because his character is written that way. But to see Sean Connery fully embrace that, I love that in these sequences throughout this movie. It couldn't be done today, but still great to see. But we're going to segue into our worst of, and whoever wants to take it first, they can jump in.
Okay, I'll go first. I have two worst of. The first one is going to be the most annoying to me. It was the after James Bond gets captured and he's sitting in the cell, and then for whatever reason the guard decides to open up the prison cell to check, like, to see, oh, did he really disappear? Obviously he did. It's just it was just a little stupid to me, a little bit unrealistic, more so than it took me out because it you do have to suspend belief to a certain extent, but something about that just didn't sit right. I was like, this doesn't make sense. And another scene, as you guys' favorite scene, surprisingly, the golf scene, like it was just drug on. It just was a little long for me. I didn't enjoy it as much. But I will mention, because we was talking about in the last James Bond movie, all the camels in the Sahara, or whatever the heck y'all was talking about.
Can you say that again? What do you mean?
The camels in the Sahara, as Vic so eloquently put it last episode, they got flagged.
I was like, what are you I'm literally thinking camels. Go ahead.
Well, at the golf course, there were a lot of balls on the on the field. One scene, James Bond is walking up to pick up the golf balls. And all you saw was jingling and jangling in the page.
Oh, you mean literally? Like, okay, I was lost again. I'm sorry.
Literally.
I thought you meant the metaphor. Okay, I got you.
There were two too many balls.
I didn't notice all of that.
Well, here's the question, Chrissy. Did you enjoy that? You don't have to answer on screen. You can say that.
Clearly, she did.
I'm just noting it because it was noted in the last movie about the Honey Rider. So let us also note it about James Bond in this movie. So
nobody's saying you can't mention his testicles. Nobody's saying that. If you want to mention testicles, you can. Go.
I mean, yep, we're equal opportunity in unpopular reviews.
You can mention testicles whenever you feel like it, Chrissy, on this show. Okay, we want you to feel welcome. Okay,
duly noted.
Now, don't just look for testicles. At least admire their work. See them for more than their testicles. But by all means, if you need to mention testicals, go ahead.
They were present. And they're listed in the cast. If you go look on Google,
as what? What's their call name on the cast?
Extras. Ball 1 and ball 2.
All right, very good.
All right, those are my least favorite scenes. Who would like to go next?
Moneypenny scenes. Worst of were too many balls on screen.
All right.
What do you have?
So my worst scene is when the female pilots went around Fort Knox and started dumping gas, or like sleep gas, and then everybody just falls over, and you just see all the soldiers just fall over. Like, that was just corny to me. I understand
there's a reason for that you may not realize yet.
No. See, I understand the reasoning behind it. It's just that, like, the way that they're doing it.
Did you finish the movie?
Huh?
Did you finish the movie?
No, not yet, but I heard the plan.
Okay, well,
So
I'm gonna spoil something. There's no gas in the thing. They're pretending. That's why they fall over so
no,
comic.
clearly they are. That's what I'm saying. Like the
No,
way
no,
they
no,
did it was just corny.
no. I'm saying that they
Oh, that's gonna
yeah.
happen. Nice.
So
Okay.
nobody's on the ground, so to see them, so they just have to, go like
Yeah,
that. So that
yeah.
when that's why. But
I
I don't
see
know.
you.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I thought
All
so
right.
too. I thought so too because it was very 1960s Batman. But
Yeah,
later on,
yeah. Like it's like okay, oh, you know what I mean? Like that seems corny,
Mhm.
but yeah. So far, that's about it because this movie's pretty good.
Yeah, I will say this something before Chris goes to his worst that I really enjoy about this movie. I'm loving the music throughout this movie.
Mhm.
That opening riff, just as I said with The Spy Who Shagged Me, Austin Powers, Chrissy's favorite movie of this year. I love that opening evil. I love this theme to this movie. I love that they play it throughout, and it picks up as Chrissy says, like the golf scene may have been a little bit too long for her, but the action sequences they're really like peppering it with these themes throughout, and I'm feeling that. Chris, go ahead, jump in with your worst of if you have one.
Worst of is very simple. I'll start with the first one that I can't stand the most, and that is actually the end where Goldfinger dies. And the reason how come I had a problem with Goldfinger dies is because I know it was 1960, I believe 3 or 4, but ew, God, the way he got sucked out of that plane was just not was just
They
not
had
the
to do
best.
what they had
He
to
was
Just
going to go
so-
out that bad. That was a horrible death.
Yes.
It was a horrible death and a horrible thing for me to watch because it's just badly choreographed. But like I said, I understand that it's not 2020.
Yeah.
They can't make it look completely real. But just watching it back, it didn't age well. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So that was one part. Another part that I can't
over
stand.
here, then his picture was over here, then it jumped down to the bottom, and then he was in the window. Like what?
Right before he played his golden harp. The other part that I can't stand about this movie, or I can't say I can't stand, but there was a scene where they were where Goldfinger was divulging his plans to all the mob bosses and stuff, right?
Mhm.
The reason how come I don't like that scene is not because I thought it was a bad scene, it's not because I didn't find that scene entertaining, because I did. But this is a scene that's been mimicked many times throughout James Bond movies as well as any other movie. Well, not any other movie, but a lot of different other movies throughout the entire time you can watch movies where a big boss needs other bosses to be a part of their plan. Batman 1989 did it, right? There's always that one mofo who does not agree with that, right? And for some reason, he thinks he's going to get away with life when daggone well you're going to die, right?
Mhm.
This was the first movie I could think of that did it. And I feel like a lot of other movies copied it, so to the point where it's a little bit overdone now, okay? Group of people sitting around a table. Everybody's like, oh, I'm not sure. One person's extra vocal, extra froggy. Dude got to put him in his place. Then everybody else calls in line. But that was it. Besides that, there's not many bad scenes in this movie.
And Chris is correct because in one of his favorite movies, The Dark Knight, they do that scene. They just play it differently.
Exactly.
Um,
He was right.
so my question with that scene is, did Goldfinger kill the other guys who went along with the plan? What did he do to them?
Yeah, he did. He did. I have no idea. It was like, what's the point of you telling the plan you're just going to kill them all anyway? But
It was just for the audience, the exposition for the audience. I didn't get that.
Correct. Yeah, but you have to understand, he loves gold. The texture of it. So it's like, he's like, you know what? I realized that me sharing it with y'all, there's no point. My gold increases by you all not being here. So let me just go ahead and kill you all anyway. But it was no point.
Because his real plan was different than what he told them. He just needed them to get to their, to bring whatever they brought. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
To take care of business.
Yes. So I just had one, and it was in the beginning of the movie, again, the cold open, when he, we see Bond, he's in the water, and he's using a snorkeler that is in the shape of a seagull to go and notice that night, right? In whatever Latin American country that was supposed to be, right? When he comes up above water and you see that it's Bond, he takes it off, but at least on mine, and I want to know on yours, that scene was like sped up. It was like, you know what I mean? Where he rips off the headgear, it was sped up. And then it does it like 10 seconds later when he shoots out the grappling gun, and that was sped up too. Did that happen for anybody else?
I don't remember it being sped up.
Okay. On mine, and maybe it was the copy that I was watching, but it was like it was sped up a little bit and then it went back to normal speed or rate speed. And I was just like, why did they do that? Was that some kind of aesthetic, or because it's not done throughout the movie? So I didn't know if I just had a bad copy. But other than that, I typically went with it, you know what I mean? And everything else I was able to say, well, it's of the time, it's mid to early 60s, you know what I mean? It's not going to look like it would in the modern era, you know, so I can forgive it that. But that was the best of worst stuff. Chris, are we going to go to commercial break?
Yep.
We are, and we're going to learn what we're going to watch next. And next, of course, what month is next? It's December. So, of course, we have to do December Christmas movies and continue with our Bond series of films.
Well, yeah, but actually we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about the next episode, which is immediately after this episode. So stay tuned after this episode for this particular movie. False. This one.
In this neighborhood is a house where souls never rest. You're invited to share their secrets.
I've been waiting for you boys.
You're invited to share their tales. Tales from the hood. Chill. Or be chill. In this neighborhood is a house.
Double show tonight, double trailers, including a double intro. You get it. I'm telling you. 007. What are we doing here? We're going to go into our next segment. Arguably between our two segments, our two new segments, which are recast and quotables. Quotables has to be my favorite of the two. And we're going to jump right into it with our quotables. Now, Miss Moneypenny, would you like to take it?
Sure. I'll go right ahead.
I cede that to you, even though I hope you don't steal any of my quotes.
Wait, didn't you want us to go first?
I did, but I'll let you go first.
Okay.
I can't say my quotes and you haven't gone first. I don't want to be that rude.
All right, well, good, because I don't think I've stolen anybody's quotes, even though Vic did kind of give a little sneak peek of one of my first ones, but we'll go ahead and I'll say it anyway. Well, we have Moneypenny, Miss Moneypenny, moi. She says to James Bond, only goat I know of is the kind that you wear, you know, on the third ring of your left hand or the third finger of your left hand. So she's a little slick one. She's trying to drop a little hints.
Give him that hint.
And my next quote is going to be, this is probably one of the more iconic quotes. Actually, I'll leave that for someone else because I'm pretty sure someone else mentioned this quote.
Take it.
Take it? Okay. I don't want you guys to say I'm swiping.
We're going to do that regardless.
Okay. When James Bond, he's, you know, getting interrogated or about to die, and he pretty much tells Goldfinger, like, look, what do you expect me to talk? And he says, no, I don't expect you to talk. I expect you to die. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Chrissy stole my quote, ladies and gentlemen.
I knew it. See, I knew someone was going to take that quote. I tried to be nice. But
it's a great quote.
It is a great quote. My next one is going to be, this is simply an introduction. Okay. But this is the most ridiculous introduction, but this is something that they can do in the 60s. This is why I like 60s movies. My name is Pussy Galore.
Loved it. Loved it.
Pussy Galore, ladies and gentlemen. I can say it because it's a name. No flag, YouTube, please, and thank you. And another one I have here is it's because it's just so ridiculous. This is something that is just, this movie gets away with a lot of stuff because it's the 60s. And this is one of them. When the first Bond girl of the movie, I forget her name at the moment, but after the judo chop, James Bond comes back and finds her dead. And the reason for her death is this. She's painted in gold and she died of skin suffocation.
That's a true thing. That's a real thing.
Really?
Yeah, because the pores, they have no way to breathe. So, you know, in clubs, when you see women, or I guess some guys do it too, where they're painted all one color. They always leave like a dime shape spot, usually on their back, somewhere where it can be hidden, so that the oxygen has a way to get into the body. Because if not, and you paint yourself completely all over, you will suffocate and die. Your body can't breathe.
Oh, I stand corrected. I thought it was. I never knew that was a thing.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, I'll retract that from my ridiculous quotables. But no, that's really.
I didn't know that either.
No,
it was a couple of years ago. Something happened, and somebody died from that, and they explained the rationale behind that, and they said that usually. Huh?
They do that a lot of football games and stuff too. I've noticed that they'll paint themselves.
It was I'm not gonna remember it now, but it was something, and they explained that usually they use like a dime-sized, pore hole for the body to breathe and get it in that way.
Oh wow! But when they did this scene in the movie, they were kind enough to replace her underwears because she still had on her little bikini bottoms. So I guess they painted.
He's a gentleman. Goldfinger's a gentleman.
But yeah, those are my quotables. Who's next?
Okay. You can drop the charm. I'm immune. Pussy galore. And I like that quote because later on, and I actually meant to say this as a favorite scene, when they had the little fight where they were like flipping each other. And then you could tell one of those flips was pre-planned and she was thrown into the hay and really, what I mean? And then they're like going through a scuffle, and all of a sudden he kisses her, and she, and then she gives in, and he's Bond. So now I understand why all the guys wanted to be like Bond, because even the bad girls he was able to get.
Yes, Andrew.
So like.
I wonder if they put it in the hay on purpose, like a romp through the hay.
A romp through the hay, exactly. All these movies, because remember, this is I forget it's a Hollywood term. That's why, like, whenever they kiss, it's only for like a couple of seconds, and then they pull away. You'll see this from like the 30s or 40s all the way until almost the 70s, because it was a Hollywood code that they had to abide by. Right. We see this also in the comic book industry, that they had the same kind of thing. Whereas in the 50s, they had a lot of pulp comics, and they had like vampires and zombies and everything like that. You see that disappear. That's why comic books became very campy in the 60s. Right. Hence why you have the Batman campy TV show, and it's kid friendly and everything like that. Super Friends and all of that comes from that. And then it only changes later into the 80s when you have The Dark Knight Returns, and then you have Tim Burton's 89 Batman, which is based off of the darker tone of The Dark Knight Returns and the comic series like Watchmen and stuff like that. So that's why we have a lot of that.
Cool.
Vic, did you have any others that you wanted to
give? Well, clearly because of my name, the Man Talk one, but we got into that earlier, because that was literally my favorite quote of the movie. That just brought me into the movie. And then, she already stole the one, the famous one. I expect you to die. That was cool. Oh, no, another one was when Goldmember said, I've already met you twice. I'm sure not to want to meet you again. Because that was pretty smart, the way he was setting him up there. But, you pretty much alluded to everything. This was a very smart movie. So, like, yeah, it's good shit. But yeah, no, I'm done.
And I would say this, credit to the source material. I haven't read the book, but also credit to the screenplay or the screenwriters, whoever did it, because these movies are being churned out year after year. So it's Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and then Goldfinger, year after year after year. If you did that today, the quality would be terrible, as we've seen. Okay, and sometimes they have years in between. I'm thinking of, I don't know, let's call it the new Star Wars trilogy.
Don't you? I thought you were going to say Marvel movies.
Those two, if you want. There's a reason for that. They don't have the same care when it comes to the script, and so that's why there's certain inconsistencies when it comes to these movies. Because
after Goldfinger, there's actually a movie called Thunderball, which I did not like at all. Some people did. I didn't like it. And he actually later remade it when he came back to play James Bond, even though it wasn't part of the canon. and never say never. So, but that's neither here nor there. I agree with what you're saying completely. I did like From Russia with Love, not as much as Goldfinger or Dr. No, but I did like it. But Thunderball was not that good, and then from there was You Only Live Twice, which was okay. But let me go ahead and go to my quotables while we're here doing the time thing. But I have a few. Let's go with at the golf course. After James Bond had Odd Job throw the hat, James Bond said, "Remarkable, but what does the club secretary have to say?" And Or Goldfinger looks down and says, "Oh, nothing, Mr. Bond. I own the club." It was smooth. It was cocky. It was everything you want from a villain. Complete control. That's how it needs to be. Of course, the funny thing about what Chrissy said. Of course, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Now, the first time I actually heard that line, because remember, I didn't watch James Bond until a little later, was actually Dr. Evil, right? Dr. Evil said that to Austin Powers as Austin Powers was being led away. And the way Dr. Evil says it always will be the funny one to me, because he says, "No, Mr. Bond, no, Mr. Powers, I expect you to die." And he was just so happy to say the line. So I always will I will always like that line. And I want to say that is it. Y'all always take some, or then I end up changing my mind. For James Bond had some interesting quips. I think I got a lot of my my wit from him. Speaking of which, that was another line. He said when he was on the table, he was like, "Hey, you making your point, okay?" And then Or Goldfinger says to him, "Was like, be careful what you wit. It might be your last." I love that. Subtle lines makes him seem like he's in full control. Is what makes a good villain. You Only Live Twice is still by far the coolest of the Bond movies. That's arguable.
I haven't seen it.
Mr. Higgins. It was actually the Dr. Evil character was pretty much based mostly off of the villain in You Only Live Twice. I know most people thought it was Dr. No, but actually it was Blofeld, which was in You Only Live Twice. He ended up being in so many different movies, but so many different actors were playing him and stuff like that. But the original one, which was acted by Donald Pleasence, who we know from the Halloween movie, it actually is the originator of that character. So love Lil Nelly, who was in You Only Live Twice. If you ever get a chance to see it, it was a good one. I want to say it was Sean Connery's last one, but it wasn't. It was actually Diamonds Are Forever. But it was his last one before he was replaced by George Lansby. Let's go ahead and go into James's quotables.
All right. So pretty much a lot of people have said the same things as me. To honor Vic with Man Talk, here it is. Dink, meet Felix Leiter. Felix, say hi to Dink. Dink, say goodbye to Felix. Man Talk. I love that because it was seamless.
Don't forget the smack on the ass after.
Yes. And it was like, go on now. This has nothing to do with you. Go on now. It was so dismissive, but I absolutely loved it. I can't pretend. Loved it. Okay. Also, to Chris's point, who are you? He wakes up and he's coming to. This is James waking up, and he's like, "Who are you?" And she says, "My name is Pussy Galore." And James goes, "I must be dreaming."
Yes.
The lines that he has, because again, James in this movie is the audience, and I can only imagine in the '60s to go in the audience and where everything is like so not PC, but so like 1950s still. And for somebody to say that, because remember, James in this movie, he talks about, can you imagine going to one of the Beatles concerts? How terrible that would be. And so the Beatles are like counterculture for that time. For us today, they're just something quaint that, if you like music, oh, you listen to the Beatles. But for that time, they were counterculture. But here we have this woman on the screen saying, "My name is Pussy Galore." Nobody talks like that. But you, again, as Christian said, you can say that because that's her name, and it's not, the jargon of the female anatomy, right? And he goes, "I must be dreaming," and it's the joke to the audience, like, can you imagine? He said, "I can't believe he said that," and I can see why people say Sean Connery is so cool, like, you could never get away with that. You know what I mean? Speaking of that scene, also that Chrissy brought up, when you have Jill Masterson. Jill Masterson is the Bond girl that we see painted in gold, right? Earlier on in the scene, he gets a call from Felix Leiter. And I didn't mention this on my best of, but she's trying to listen in on the phone, and he just smushes her back on the bed, like, get out of here. You know what I mean? Has nothing to do with you. But on the radio, if you listen to the radio, it goes, at the White House, the president said he was entirely satisfied. And James goes, that makes two of us.
That was awesome. Yes.
Okay.
This guy.
He was in Switzerland, and he's driving his Aston Martin, right? Which we will see again, obviously, for those who are familiar with the Bond films, right? And we see Tilly Masterson, who we don't know her name at the time, but Jill's sister, who's trying to get revenge or avenge her sister, right? And she's speeding up. That scene reminded me of what is it, Chris? Is that GoldenEye? When they were racing on the highway with Annika Famke Jensen, her character. And we see Pierce Brosnan, and he's racing her. It's GoldenEye, right? Yeah. And we see him racing, and he wants to do the same thing. And he says to himself, discipline, 007, discipline. So we know that even he knows, I'm doing too much. Let me slow down. But he again, that joy of life. I love that. But I already said you are unusually well informed, Mr. Bond. I love this to Vic's point. When they're in the hay and they're having their romp in the hay, obviously, something that you would have heard in the 60s. Pussy, who taught you judo? Loved it. Tie into that one. You're a woman of many parts, pussy. Again, the audience had to go wild. And I would have loved to sit in the audience and watch the reaction of these sequences. The same as when people say Star Wars, when they watched A New Hope and they had never seen special effects like that, to be able to see that with the audience from that time, to not be jaded coming from 50 years later, I would have loved that. It was great. But I'm going to do that full sequence, though, that Chrissy talked about on the laser bed, because I think it's great. You expect me to talk, as Chrissy said. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. And then later on, Goldfinger goes, there's nothing you can talk to me about that I don't already know. Love that line. He goes, Operation Grand Slam, for instance. That's James in retort. And then Goldfinger's not even turning around to him. He goes, 2 words you may have overheard which cannot possibly have any significance to you or anyone in your organization. And then James responds, can you afford to take that chance? Loved it. Because everybody is on their toes, and Goldfinger is not a stupid villain. Right? Neither is Oddjob. Oddjob is actually on point throughout this whole movie. And James has to be that much better in order just to survive. He can't be willy-nilly. He can't be playful and everything like that. And I love that it was like a great dance between two equals. That to me is great cinema. I loved it. That was my quotables. We're going to jump into our next segment, which is Recast It.
Recast it. Let's go ahead. Who wants to start?
I agree with that, Andrew. I agree with that.
Arguable. Who wants to start off and recast it? Okay,
I just have one.
Go ahead, James.
Mm-hmm. So in this movie, of course, we have the return of Felix Leiter. We first saw him, obviously, in the first film, Dr. No, which I just found out in the book. He's not even in that book, but they put him in there. They wanted to have Felix Leiter in that movie. Now, in that movie, let me just pull up the picture. This is Felix Leiter. Now, he actually looks like he would be a company man, if you will, as they used to say in that time, somebody working for the CIA. He looks like the American version of 007, which, as I understand, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, that's who Felix Leiter is supposed to be, right?
Correct.
But in this movie,
correct,
this is Felix Leiter.
Huh.
Now, he doesn't look like a contemporary of James. He looks like a contemporary of M in the movie. And he doesn't look like he would still be in the field as a CIA operative, because, at least not with this mission, because what is he doing? I don't know. I looked up to see why they cast this actor, and obviously his wife had a relationship with the producers in this movie, so that's how they got him into this role. But I really prefer this one, and I think, what is his name? I wrote it down. Something Black. Jack Lord, rather. And in Goldfinger, it's Sek Linder who plays Felix Leiter, but I prefer Jack Lord so far in the Felix Leiters.
Cool. I can see it. I like that recasting. Makes more sense.
In most movies, Felix Leiter is somebody different almost every time.
Yeah.
Almost every time.
Except
I'll
for
actually
the
go
modern
next.
ones. The modern ones, they've kept Jeffrey Wright, right?
They kept the one. Right, they kept the same one. I'll go next. You're going to do. You did Felix Leiter. I didn't have a problem with Felix Leiter. He's a character who usually comes up for 5 minutes. Usually, I said this guy. Odd Job. You know, smart guy. But if you pay attention to what I said earlier, I said I am a James Bond fanatic, but I watched him late, right? So who has me on Echo like Blast? All right, cool. So that's not my first introduction to Odd Job. So I was a little disappointed when I saw Odd Job because my Odd Job is this guy, and I wanted to see him. I wanted to see him, right? Nintendo 64. Odd Job was that little mofo that you was hard to kill unless you shot him in the head because he just came out of nowhere. Came out of nowhere like he wanted to, give you oral sex. Like it was ridiculous. I couldn't. Why are you top fooling me, this guy? It was just out of nowhere. He just annoyed me. He just annoyed the heck out of me all the time. So I wanted to see him. I thought, I was dealing with somebody who's vertically challenged, and then I saw this movie. I'm like, this movie, he's not vertically challenged. He doesn't meet the height requirement that I'm looking for. So I was a little disappointed by Odd Job. But if I was going to recast it, I would have found that guy from Nintendo 64, and I would have put him in this movie.
Is that your final recasting?
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and go next because I too only have one, and I'm bringing up our girl, Pussy Galore.
Come on, Chrissy. Careful.
I'm going to say it because it's a name.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying because Pussy Galore is a favorite, so be careful what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Well, I got one for you because if she were to be recasted in a more modern version, I feel like this actress could pull it off. You might know her from Hulu's Hannah. Her name is Mariel Enos. She's a really good actress. She can kind of play like that double agent almost, like you're not sure what side she's on or kind of thing going on. I feel like she could successfully play Pussy Galore if given the chance in a more modern version.
Can we get a recasting of that picture that you used to show us the modern Pussy Galore? Can we get another picture to see?
What's wrong with this picture?
I'm just a little disappointed. At least.
How?
Actually,
she literally looks almost the same as this other woman.
No, actually, Chrissy, I agree with you. This woman here, put her back up. A lot of vaginas. Can you put her back up? Yeah, her.
You don't fall for the trap. It's a trap, Chrissy.
It's not a trap. This woman is. James said. I don't know why they're laughing. James, Chrissy, could you put the a lot of vaginas?
They are both a woman of a particular age.
Yeah. All right, look,
that's not a sex symbol. Now, Chrissy, can we get a better picture, please?
No. Because
I'm not saying you're wrong. Just a better picture.
No, because no, she's not. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
I warned you. You walk right.
If you look at her, this is not a sex symbol, okay? But the reason how come I agree with your recast is because this is not a sex symbol at all. She's not attractive, right? I was interested in seeing I was actually interested in seeing the face of the woman who voiced her because and I understand some bears don't have the most attractive roar, and I have a feeling this woman did not have the most attractive voice to be a Bond girl. So I agree with you, Chrissy. I am 100% behind you. This same mess.
They are both beautiful women. I disagree. Both very beautiful.
Well, if you're from Bizarro World, then yeah. But if you actually like women,
what did you say, Bizarro? Bizarro World?
I know. You know what? I gotta recast it for you. I got another recast it. If you want somebody,
we agree with Chrissy.
There we go.
Teacup. Oh, you find Teacup more attractive? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't.
You're saying that they're
on the same level. They're on the same level. That's what I'm trying to say. All right.
Haters. She's a very beautiful woman. Both actresses are very beautiful. So yes,
well,
but that is my recasted, ladies and gentlemen.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So Chrissy, that's the type of woman that Chrissy finds attractive. Now we know. Vic, would you like to go with your recasted?
Yeah, stupid. Oh man! All right, so I also have recasted Odd Job, and
I like that job. I think you did a great job.
I think he was a good character, man. Throughout this movie, I think that the first person that the main person that I was thinking of at all times was
The
Random Task.
shoe.
Random Task is the person that I was thinking about the whole time because it was just so hilarious. Like as soon as I saw this guy, I was just like, "Oh my god!" But then the other person that
They look like father and son.
the other person that this guy also reminded me of was
Yeah.
Kung Lao.
Who is this?
Kung Lao. So
He throws
honestly,
his hat. He throws his
I
hat.
really wonder if the guys that made Mortal Kombat got this idea from this movie because, like, this so Kung Lao, it's not even funny. Like the
Okay,
hat
so
and the
you guys said he
slicing
throws
and the
his hat.
slicing-
That's his attack.
the slicing of the statue. Like, yeah, like Kung Lao, he takes his hat and slices you in half. That's his fatality. So, like, the whole thing with and then also another fatality is him throwing the hat at you and cutting your head off.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if they had gotten this from this movie because this was so Kung Lao is not even funny. Yeah, I thought that part was.
I think that's a great recasted. Vic.
Yeah, no, Random Task is he's Random Task
And also Kung Lao.
and Kung Lao. Yeah, those guys are legends.
Hey, we got a couple of comments. Let me just read through them before we cut to our second commercial break. Charmaine says hi to Chrissy. Andrew says, who do you think would have made a great Chris? Why are you laughing? Who do you think would have made a great Bond villain? She said hi to Chrissy. Would have made a great Bond villain. For me, it would have been the late Alan Rickman. Let me just tell you, Alan Rickman is a tremendous actor, and it would have been great to see him in one of these movies. We're going to see him coming up pretty soon next month in one of next month's movies. Hint, hint, hint.
I see Roger Moore.
Roger Moore would have been a great Bond villain.
Okay, now I get it.
I always thought that one of them should have came back to be a villain. It could have been a different character. It had to be a James Bond or something like that, but he should have came back and been a villain. And I would have picked Roger Moore. Was that the last comment?
No. Steve asks, has the stream been shut down for being too spicy yet? Well, it was shut down temporarily. Chrissy started talking about balls and testicles, and then which women she likes. If you don't see it live, I'm sorry. You gotta tune in. Then he says, who throws a show? But he means shoe. Who throws a shoe? Come on, guys. Who throws a freaking shoe? And that is from our last episode, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Beautiful.
We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to find out. I don't know if Chris is duplicating these one more time again, since it's a double episode tonight, but find out what show we're doing right after this and also next week.
My goal is to prevent World War III, Admiral.
Now, the world has only one chance for peace.
When will our ships be in position? 48 hours.
And just one man for the job.
Bond. James Bond.
Why are we skipping?
Everyone picked their favorite Bonds movie.
Oh.
Vic wasn't in that production meeting.
Right. He was there, but he wasn't there.
Okay.
Because if we did all James Bond movies, it would actually surpass Marvel. Because there's been 25 James Bond movies, so that's why we're not doing all of them.
By the time we finish, it would be our COVID anniversary. But
oh, nice.
But
ironically, we might have actually passed it. We might pass it. Seriously.
Before we get into our next segment, I wanted to answer the question.
Is for me. Charmaine said, "How do you? Can we read my comment, please?"
What?
I think James Bond would make a great Bond villain. Thank you very much. A lot of people think that I'm very, very nice. Their first impression of me is he's very, very nice and warm and welcoming. But you, for some reason, think that I'm evil, and you agree with Chris for some reason. I don't know why that is.
But wait, isn't Chris Magneto?
Exactly. Thank you, Vic. Thank you.
So I wanted to answer Andrew's question. I think a good actor for a different Bond villain would be Philip Hoffman. He passed away a little while ago, but I think he would make a good Bond villain if he was still alive.
I'll give you that too. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah.
So
That's
next.
a good recast, Chrissy.
Oh, thank you.
I like to be able to say it and mean it once a year. Charmaine says hi to you. Did you see that?
Hi, Charmaine.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for watching. Glad to see you here again. Recasted is ended.
Steve is spicy with these comments. Oh, y'all have production meeting. Yes, we do. That's why I show it's popping. That's why I show it's popping, Steve. And that's why you're watching tonight. Thank you for doing so. And for these spicy comments. I see what you're doing there, buddy. We're going to jump to our final segment for this show for Goldfinger, and that is final thoughts. Chrissy, would you like to take it away? You always like to go first.
Sure. I shall go first yet again. My final thoughts about this movie. This, again, I haven't seen a lot of the older Bond movies. The only movies that I've seen all the way through have been the newer, like 2000s James Bond movies. So as I was watching this film, this felt very much like a James Bond movie to me, even more so than Dr. No. You can kind of see the blueprint of the James Bond movie, the newer James Bond movies here for me, even as far as the introduction with the woman in gold, and we get the really the song playing over over that beginning. It just was just very James Bond-esque. So I feel like even more so than Dr. No, this is where they have the roles, they're comfortable in their roles, they know what they're doing. And you can see that this is kind of the blueprint that's followed throughout the rest of the Bond movies that I've seen, at least. So I'm going to give this movie a thumbs up. I enjoyed it. Good movie. So yeah, thumbs up for me. Short and sweet. Somebody's closing doors.
Stand clear of the closing doors. Okay, so clearly by the name, by my enthusiasm, by everything that I've said so far, this movie gets a thumbs down because clearly. I loved it. I loved how great it was. And you know what I mean? Luckily I was able to finish it and enjoy everything about it. You know, it was a great movie. I mean, there was things that were cheesy, but it was the 60s. What can you expect? But then at the same time, like, there's very little of this movie that didn't age well. So the fact that it's entertaining 60 years later, and it's just great, is awesome. I mean, I don't know if I just appreciate it more because of the age that I have, or just because of the content itself. Because, you know, like above all else, one of the things that we said the most is that we like things that they really wouldn't be able to get away with today. You know, unless it's I don't know, it gives you a feeling. It's kind of refreshing to see it. I don't know if that's because of how old I am or my perspective, but all right, now I rambled too much in that, but clearly it's a thumbs up.
You know, to start the show, I was going to come up like this with my hands like that, because that's how this movie opens up, you know, for me with the theme. I love this movie. As I said, with Dr. No, it was great. Dr. No was almost like a black and white movie to me. This one is like a vibrant, colorful film, if that makes any kind of sense when you watch it. I'm loving the quips. I'm loving the joy of that life of a spy. I'm loving that old school spy aesthetic. I really, as I said earlier, and I said in the previous episode, I really do see why people say Sean Connery is the best, because other people have tried to emulate that, but they don't really carry it. You almost believe that this is how Sean Connery acted in his day-to-day life. When you see him in Untouchables, when you see him even in The Last Crusade, he had that swagger about him. When you see him as Alan Quartermain in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he just had that commanding presence to him, and it was an inspired choice to cast him. He's done a great job. I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing the new ones that we're doing. We're going to do Tomorrow Never Dies. We're jumping into Casino Royale. We're going to do Skyfall. But other than Craig and Connery, who Daniel Craig for me is the closest to Sean Connery as far as the feel of that. I can't even say the other ones compare now. You know what I mean? And I grew up in the Pierce Brosnan age. So of course it's a thumbs up. It's a great movie. Really, really loved it.
Wonderful. All right.
All right. So, all right, I'll make this really quick. So let's go over a few things. Movie came out in 1964, got 7.7 out of 10. IMDb.com. $3 million to make, $51 million to make worldwide in the United States. Trust me, this is in the 1960s. That's a lot of money, good income, good profit. To answer this gentleman's question, who do I think was the weakest Bond villain? It's really, really hard and a tough choice for me. But I'm going to go with the guy from Thunderball. I can't recall his name right now, but I really was not a fan of his. So I will go with him. Or the guy from Moonraker, because he sucked too. Just one of those two. No. I also think Timothy Dalton was a bad miscast. I think Timothy Dalton was actually really good and underrated. I don't think any James Bond was bad to a certain extent. Were there better than others? Yes, but Tim Dalton was actually pretty good. Bronson seemed like a good combo of Moore and Connery, and that's good. He had a lot more interesting takes like Roger Moore as far as wit, but Sean Connery nailed the weight too. But Roger Moore was a lot more campy, as James alluded to earlier. But Pierce Brosnan, he was able to switch on and off. I still say my favorite right now has to be Daniel Craig, but Pierce Brosnan's up there. Like I said, it's never been a bad one to me. But that being said, the good of this movie, it was a James Bond movie. It was a lot. It was like the quintessential James Bond movie. I think if Goldfinger was not as successful as it was, we would not be seeing as many other James Bond movies as we have seen since. It was just that tremendous, that stupendous. As far as the bad, I really don't have any bad except for the fact that Dr. No and From Russia with Love was really trying to get upon the Spectre element, and Goldfinger got out of it completely. So it was like, I wish you kept with the story, and that's the only bad thing about it. But hey, you did a great job. It was even better than most of the stories with Spectre. So what can I say? All right. So clearly, you already knew what I was going to give going into it. It's just a thumbs up for me. And it's the fourth thumbs up, second James Bond movie in a row. And actually, we've been doing a few, unless they're a Chrissy pick, all 4 thumbs up. I'm just being real. We've been doing a lot of 4 thumbs up, unless it's a your pick. What do you think is the reason for that?
Because I pick movies that are new and haven't been seen before. You guys pick movies that you like because you saw them before. Now, to answer that person's question, Andrew, I think the worst villain is from Spectre, not because of Christoph Waltz, he's a great actor, but because the villain was underused and it just seemed like they wrote him all over the place. And worst villain for me. But all right. 4 thumbs up. Mm-hmm. We have another show immediately after this, so be sure to join us. We'll be talking about Tales from the Hood. This is a pick of Mr. M over there in the corner. So join us momentarily.
All right. See you soon. I got to step off for a second.
All right. Bye, everyone.